Money is an idea. One of my favorite songs, The Gambler by Kennedy Roger. The online sums up the whole chapter. If you're going to play the game, boy, you got to learn to play it right. I hope you now understand the basic of the cash flow quadrant and know that money really is an idea that is more clearly seen with your mind than your eyes. Learning the game of money and how it is played is an important part of your journey to financial freedom. More important, though, is who you need to become to move to the right side of the cash flow quadrant. Part 2 of this book will focus on bringing out of the best in you and in analyzing the formula we do have. Bringing out the best in you. Chapter 7, Becoming Who You Are. It's not being homeless that matters, my rich dad said. It's about who you are. Keep striving and you become somebody quiet and you also become somebody, but not the same person. The changes you go through. For those of you contemplating going from job security to financial security, all I can offer you are words of encouragement. For Kim and me, it looks being homeless and desperate before I found the courage to move forward. That was our path, but it definitely does not have to be your path. As I described earlier, there are ready made systems that can help you cross the bridge to the right side of the quadrant. The real issue is the changes you go through internally and who you become in the process. For some people, the process is easy. For others, the journey is impossible. Money is a drag. Rich Dad would always say to Mike and me, money is a drug. The main reason he refused to pay us while we work for him was because we never wanted us to become addicted to working for money. If you become addicted to money, he said, it's hard to break that addiction. When I was calling him from California as a grown man to ask him for money, he was not about to break a pattern he had started with Mike and me when we were 9. He did not give us money as kid, and he was not about to start now. Instead, he continued to be tough and guide me away from the addiction of the working for money. He called money a drug because he had observed people who were happy when they had money and upset or moody when they did not. Just as heroin addicts get high when they inject the drug, they also get moody and violent when they don't have it. Be careful, money addictive power. He often said, once you receive it, that addiction keeps you attached to the way you got it. Put another way, if you receive money as an employee, then you tend to get accustomed to that way of acquiring it. If you get used to generating money by being self-employed, it is often difficult to break the attachment to earning money in the way. And if you get used to government handout, that too is a hard pattern to break. The hardest pattern about moving forward the left side or to the right side is the attachment you have to the way you have been earning money, said Rich Dad. It's more than breaking a habit, it's breaking addiction. That is why stress to Mike and me to never work for money. He insisted we learn to create our own system as a way of acquiring money. The pattern for Kim and me, the hardest part is trying to become people who generated income in the B quadrant was that all of our past conditioning was still holding us back. It was tough when Friends said, "Why are you doing this? Why don't you just get a job?" It was even more difficult because there was a part of us that also wanted to go back to the security of a paycheck. Rich Dad explained to Mike and me that the world of money was one large system and was as individual learn how to operate in certain patterns within the system. For example, an E works for the system and S is the system, and the B creates own or control the system, and I invest money into the system. The pattern Rich Dad was talking about was the pattern in our body, mind, and soul of how we naturally gravitate to the subject of money. When a person feels the need for money, Rich Dad explain, and E will automatically look for the job, and as often will do something alone. B will create or buy a system that produce money, and I will look for the opportunity to invest in an asset that produce more money. Why it's hard to change pattern? The reason it's hard to change a pattern, said Rich Dad, is because money today is essential for life. In the agrarian age, money was not that important because the land could provide food, shelter, warmth, and water without money. Once we move into the cities during the industrial age, money signify life itself. Today, even water costs money. Rich Dad went on to explain that when you begin to move from, let's say, the E quadrant to the B quadrant, the part of you that is addicted to being an E or afraid that life will end begin to kick and fight back. It's like a growing person beginning to fight for air, or a starving man who will eat anything to survive. It's this battle that goes on inside of you that makes it so hard. It's a battle between who it's a battle between who you no longer are and who you want to become. That is the problem. Rich Dad explained to me over the phone. The part you that still seek security is in a war with that part of you that wants freedom. Only you can decide which one will win. You will either build that business or you will go back to finding a job forever. Find your passion. Do you really want to move forward? Asked Rich Dad. Yes, I said hurriedly. Have you forgetting what you set out to do? Have you forgetting about your passion and what caused you to get into the predicament in the first place? Asked Rich Dad. Oh, I replied, a little started. I had forgetting, so I stood there at the pay phone clearing my head so I could remember what got me into this mess into in the first place. I knew it, said Rich Dad, his voice booming over the phone. You are more worried about your own personal survival than keeping your dream alive. Your fear has pushed aside your passion. The best way to keep going is to keep the flame in your heart going. Always remember what you set out to do. The trip will be easy. Start working more about yourself and your fear begins to eat away at your soul. Passion builds businesses, not fears. You've gone this far, you are close, so don't run back now. Remember what you set out to do. Keep the memory in your heart and keep the flame going. You can always quit, so why quit now? With that, Rich Dad wish me luck and hang up the phone. He was correct. I had forgetting why I set out on this journey. I had forgetting about my dreams and allowed my fears to fill my head as well as my heart. Just a few years earlier, there had been a movie entitled Flash Dance. The theme song said something about take your passion and make it happen. Well, I had forgetting my passion. It was now time to make it happen or got back home and forget about it. I stood there for a while and again I heard Rich that last words you can always quit, so why quit now? I decided to delay quitting until I had made things happen. Becoming a teacher who owned the system, I stood at the phone booth after Rich Dad and I had hung up. My fears and lack of success were beating me, and my dreams had been pushed aside. My dreams of creating a different kind of a school system and educational program for people who wanted to be entrepreneurs and investors. As I stood there, my mind drifted back to my days in high school when I was 15 years old. My high school guidance counselor asked me, what are you going to do when you grow up? You are going to become a teacher like your dad. Looking straight at my counselor, my answer was straightforward, strong, and filled with conviction. I'll never be a teacher. Becoming a teacher is last thing I would ever do. I did not dislike school. I hated it. I absolutely hated being forced to sit and listen to someone I did not particularly like or respect speak for months on a subject I had no interest in. I fidgeted, scrump, caused problems in the back of the room unless I just left instead of going to class. So when my guidance counselor asked me if I was planning to seek a career following in my father's footsteps as a teacher, I nearly jumped out of my skin. Little did I know at the time that passion is a combination of love and hate. I love learning, but I hate school. I absolutely detested sitting there and being programmed into the becoming something I did not want to be. I was not alone. Notable quotes on education. Winston Churchill once said, I am always ready to learn, but I do not always like being taught. John Updike John Updike said, the founding fathers in their wisdom decide that children were an unnatural strains on their parent. So they provided jails called school. They provided jails called school, equipped with tortures called education. Norman Douglas said, education is the state controlled manufacture of egos. H.L. Mencken said, school days, I believe, are the unhappiest in the whole span of human existence. They are full of dull, unintelligible talks, new and unpleasant ordinance, and brutal violence of common sense and common decency. Galileo said, you cannot teach a person anything, you can only help him find it within himself. Mark Twain said, I never let schooling interface with my education. Albert Einstein said, there is too much education altogether, especially in the American schools. A gifted from my educated dad. A gift from my educated dad. The person who shared these quotes with me was my highly educated but poor dad. He also despised the school system, although he did well in it. He became a teacher because he had dreams of changing the 300-year-old system, but instead the system crushed him. He took his passion, tried to change the system, and ran into a brick wall. It was a system that too many people were making money in, and no one wanted a change. Also, there was a lot of talk about the needs of the change. Maybe my guidance counselor was psychic mistake because the years later I did indeed follow in my father footstep. I just didn't follow him into the same system. I was taking that same passion and creating my own system. That is why I was homeless. My passion was to create an educational system that taught people differently. When my educated dad learned that Kim and I were struggling financially, doing our best to set up our own educational system, sent us those codes scribbled across the top of the page of the codes were these words: keep going, love that. Up until that moment, I never knew how much my educated dad had hated the system and what it did to young people. But after this gesture of encouragement, things begins to make sense. The passion that was driving me then was the same passion that had driving him earlier. I was just like my real dad, and I had unwittingly picked up the torch from him. Pick up the torch from him. I was a teacher at the core. Maybe that is why I hated the system so much. In hindsight, I had become both that from my rich dad. I had learned the secrets of being capitalist from my highly educated dad. I inherited the passion for teaching and giving. The combination of the two dads, I could now do something about the education system. I did not have the desire or ability to change the current system, but I did have the knowledge to create my own system. The years of training began to pay off. For years, my rich dad groomed me to be a person who created businesses and business system. The business I set up in 1977 was a manufacturing company. We were one of the first companies to produce the nylon and Velcro surfer wallet that came in bright colors. We followed that products with the shoe pocket, a miniature wallet also made of nylon and Velcro that attached to the shoelaces of running shoes. In 1978, jogging was the new craze, and joggers always wanted a place to put their keys and try and to carry money or ID cards in case they got hurt. That is why I designed the shoe pocket and market it to the world. Our meteoric success was phenomenal, but soon the passion for the product line and the business drafted away. It begins to weaken once my little company began to be pounded by foreign competition. Countries like Taiwan, Korea, and Hong Kong were shipping products identical to mine and were wiping out the market we had developed. Their prices were so low that were that there was no way we could compete, that were retailing products for less than it cost us to manufacture them. Our little company was faced with a dilemma: fight them or join them. The pattern realized we could not fight the competition. The companies flooding the market with cheap products were too strong. A vote was taken and we decided to join them. The tragedy was, in order to stay afloat, we had to let go of most of our faithful and hardworking staff. That broke my heart. When I went over to inspect the new factories we contracted with for our manufacturing in Korea and Taiwan, again my soul died in a little. The conditions these young workers were forced to work in were cruel and inhumane. I saw five workers stuck on. I saw five workers stack one on top of the bother me deeply. I saw five workers stack one on top of the other in a space where we could only allow one worker. My conscience begins to bother me deeply, not only for the worker we let go in America, but for the worker overseas who were now working for us. Although we had solved the financial problem of foreign competition and began to make a lot of money. My heart was no longer in the business, and the business begins to sag. In spirit was gone because my spirit was gone. I no longer wanted to become rich. If it meant exploiting so many low-paid workers, I began to think about educating people to be owners of business, not employees of business. At the age of 32, I was beginning to become a teacher, but didn't realize it at the time. The business began to decline not due to the lack of a system, but because of a lack of heart or passion. But the time came and I started out on our new business venture. The wallet company was gone. Downsizing company. In 1983, I was invited to give a talk to the MBA class at the University of Hawaii. I gave them my views on job security. They did not like what I said. In few years, many of you will lose your job or be forced to work for less and less money with less and less security because my work caused me to travel the world. I witnessed firsthand the combined power of cheap labor and innovation from technology. I began to realize that a worker in Asia or Europe or Russia or South America was really competing with workers in America. I knew the idea of high pay and a safe, secure job for workers and middle manager was an idea whose time had passed. Big companies would soon have to make cut both in the numbers of people and the dollars they paid to workers just to be able to compete globally. I was never asked back to the University of Hawaii. A few years later, the word downsizing became standard practicing every time a big company merged and workers become redundant. Downsizing occurred every time the owner wanted to make their shareholders happy, and a downsizing occur with each downsizing. I saw the pupil every time the owners wanted to make their shareholders happy. A downsizing occurred with each downsizing. I saw the people at the top get richer and richer, and the people at the bottom pay the price. Every time I heard someone say, I am sending my child to a good school so he or she can get a good, safe, secure job, I cringe. Being prepared for a job is a good idea for the short term, but it is not enough for the long term. Slowly but surely, I was becoming a teacher. Build a system around your passion. Although my manufacturing company had turned around and you're doing well again, my passion was gone. My rich dad summed up my frustration, and when he said, school days are over, it's time to build a system around your heart. Build a system around your passion. Let the manufacturing company go and build what you know you must build. You have learned well from me, but you are still your father's son. You and your dad are teachers deep in your soul. Kim and I pack up everything and moved to California to learn new teaching methods so we could create a business around those methods. Before we could get the business off the ground, we ran out of money and were out on the street. It was that phone call to my rich dad, my wife standing by me, anger at myself, and a rekindling of the passion that got us out of the mess we were in. Soon we were back at building a company. The company was an educational company using teaching method almost exactly opposite of what a traditional schooling use. Instead of asking a student to sit still, we encourage them to be active. Instead of teaching while lectures, we taught by playing games. Instead of being boring, we insisted our teachers be fun. Instead of teachers, we sought out business people who had actually started their own companies and taught our styles of teaching. Instead of grading the student graded the teacher. If the teacher got a lousy grade, the teacher was either put through another intensive training program or asked to leave. Age, educational background, sex, or religious belief were not criteria. All we asked for was a sincere desire to learn and to learn quickly. We were eventually able to teach a year's worth of accounting in one day. Although we mainly taught adults, we had many young people from 16 years old learning right alongside high paid, well educated 60 years old business executive. Instead of competing on tests, we asked them to cooperate on teams. Then we had the team taking a test competing against other teams taking the same test. Instead of striving for grades, we bet money, winner take all. The competition desires to do well as a team was fierce. The teacher did not have to motivate the class. The teacher just had to get out of the way once the learning competition was on. Instead of quiet at test time, there was yelling, screaming, laughter, and tears. People were excited about learning. They were turned on, and by learning, they wanted to learn more. We focus on teaching just two subjects, entrepreneurship and investing, the B and the I side of the quadrant. The pupil who wanted to learn these subjects in our style of education showed up in droves. We did no advertising. Everything spread by word of mouth. The people who showed up were people who wanted to create job, not people looking for job. Once I made up my mind not to quit that night at the phone booth, things begins to move forward. In less than 5 years, we had a multi-million dollar business with 11 offices throughout the world. We had built a new system of education and the market loved it. Our passion had made it happen because passion and a good system overcome fear and past programming. A teachers can be rich. Whenever I heard teachers say they are not paid enough, I felt for them. The irony is that they are a product of their own system programming. They look at the being a teacher from the point of view of the E quadrant rather than the B or the I quadrant. Remember, you can be anything you want to be, any of the quadrant, even a teacher. You can be anything we want. Most of us have the potential to be successful in all of the quadrant. It all depends on how determined we are to be successful. As my rich dad said, passion builds business, not fear. The problems of changing quadrant is often found in our past conditioning. Most many of us came from families where the emotions of fear was used as a prime motivator to get us to think and act in a certain way. For example, did you do your homework? If you don't do your homework, you will flunk out of school and all your friends will laugh at you. If you keep making faces, your face will get stuck in that position. And the classes, if you don't get good grades, you won't get a safe, secure job with benefits. Well, today many people have gotten good grades, but there are fewer safe, secure jobs and even fewer with benefits like retirement plan. So many people, even those with good grades, need to mind their own business and not just look for job where they will mind someone else's business. It's risky on the left side. I know many friends who still seek security in a job or a position. Ironically, the march of technology continues moving at even faster pace To keep up in the job market, each person will need to constantly be trained in the latest technology. If you are going to be re-educated anyway, why not spend some time educating yourself on the skills needed for the right side of the quadrant? If people could see what I see when I travel the world, they would not be looking for more security. Security is a myth. Learn something new and take on this brave new world. Don't hide from it. It's also risky for self employed people, in my opinion. If they get risky, injured, or die, their income is indirectly impacted. As I get older, I met more self employed people my age who physically, mentally, and emotionally burned out from hard work. The more fatigue a person endures, the less secure they become, and the risky of them having an accident also goes up. It's more secure on the right side. The irony is, life is actually more secure on the right side of the quadrant. For example, if you have a secure system that produces more and more money with less and less work, then you really do not need a job or need to worry about losing your job or needed to live life below your means. Instead of living below your means, expand your means to make more money. Simply expand the system and hire more people. People who are high level investors are not concerned about the market going up or going down, because their knowledge will all allow them to make money either way. If there is a market crash or a depression in the next 30 years, many baby boomers will panic and lose much of the money they had set aside for the retirement. If that happens in their old age, instead of retiring, they will have to work for the long as they can. As they As for the fear of losing money, professional investors are people who risk little of their own money and yet still make the highest return. It is the people who knows little about investing who take the risks and earn the least in return. From my point of view, all risks is on the left side of the quadrant. Why the left side is riskier? If you cannot read numbers, then you must take someone else's opinions, said Rich Dad. In the case of buying a house, your dad just blindly accepts your banker's opinion that his house is an asset. Both Mike and I noticed his emphasis on the word blindly. Most people on the left side really do not need to be that good with financial numbers, but if you want to be to be successful on the right side of the quadrant, then numbers becomes your eyes. Numbers allow you to see what most people cannot see. Rich Dad went on. You mean like Superman X-ray vision, said Mike. Rich Dad chuckled and nodded. Exactly, he said. The ability to read numbers, financially systems, and business system give you vision that mere mortals do not have. Even he laughed at that silliness. Having financial vision lower your risks. Being financial blind increase risks, but you only need that vision if you want to operate on the right side of the quadrant. In fact, people on the left side think in words, and to be successful on the right, especially the I quadrant, you must think in numbers, not words. It's really risky trying to be an investor while still thinking predominantly in words. Are you saying that people on the left side of the quadrant do not need know about financial numbers, I ask? For most of them, that is correct, said Rich Dad. As long as they are content to operate strictly within the confines of being an E or S, then the numbers they learn in school are adequate. If they want to survive on the right side, Understanding financial numbers and system becomes crucial. If you want to build a small business, you don't need to master numbers. But if you want to build a large worldwide business, numbers becomes everything, not words. That is why so many large companies are often run by bean counters. Rich Dad continue his lesson. If you want to be successful on the right side when it comes to money, you have got to know the difference between facts and the opinions. You cannot blindly accept financial advice. That's why people on the left side do. You must know your numbers. You must know the fact, and the numbers tells you the fact. Who pays to take risk? Beside the left side being risky, people on that side pay to take that risk, said Rich Dad. What did you mean by that last remark? I asked. Doesn't everyone pay to take risk? No, said Rich Dad, not on the right side. Are you trying to say that people on the left side to take risk and the people on the right side get paid to take risk? Exactly what I mean, said Rich Dad smiling. That is the biggest difference between the left side and the right side. That is why the left side is riskier than the right. Can you give me an example? I asked. Sure, said Rich Dad. If you buy shares of stock in a company, who takes the financial risks? You or the company? I guess I do. I said, still puzzle. And if I am a medical insurance company and I insure your health and take on your health risk, do I pay you? No, I said, they if they insure my health, they take that risk. I pay for it. That's right, said Rich Dad. I have yet to find an insurance company that will insure your health or incident risks and pay you for that privilege. But that is what people do the left side do. It's kind of confusing, said Mike. It still does not make sense. Rich Dad smiled. Once you better understand the right side, you will begin to see the difference more clearly. Most people do not know there is a difference. They just assume everything is risky and they pay for it. But as the years go on, you become more comfortable with your experience and educating on the right side of the quadrant. Your vision will improve and you will begin to see what people on the left side cannot see. And you will understand why seeking security to avoid risks is the riskiest thing you can do. You will develop your own financial vision and do not have to accept other people's opinions simply because they have a job title of banker or stockbroker or accountant or whatever. You will be able to see for yourself and know the difference between financial facts and the financial opinion. It was a good day. In fact, it was one of the better lesson I could remember. It was a great because began to open my mind to things my eyes could not see. Numbers reduce risks. Without those simple lessons from my rich dad, I doubt if I could have taken my passion and built the educational system of my dreams. Without his insistence of Without his insistence on financial literacy and accuracy, I know I could not have invested as wisely with so little of my own money and earned such high return. I always remember the bigger the project, the faster you want to succeed, the more you need to be accurate. If you want to get rich slow or just work all your life and let someone else manage your money, then you do not need to be accurate. The faster you want to get rich, the more accurate with numbers you must be. The good news is that due to advances advances in technology and new products, it is much easier today to learn the necessary skills for building your own system and quickly developing your financial literacy. You can go fast, but don't take shortcuts. To reduce your taxes, buy a bigger house and get deeper into debt so you can get a tax write off. Your home should be your largest investment. You're better buy now because the prices always go up. Get rich slowly, live below your means. If you put in the time to study and learn about the subject requirement on the right side of the quadrant, such a statement won't make much sense. It might make sense to someone on the left side of the quadrant, but not to someone on the right side. You can do anything you like, go as fast as you like, make as much money as you like, but you have to pay the price. You can go quickly, but remember there are no shortcuts. This book is not about answers, this book is about looking at financials, challenges and objectives from the different point of view. It's not that one point of view it's better than another. It's simply smarter to have more than one point of view. In reading the following chapters, you may begin looking at finances because and life from a different point of view.